Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. It's Sori and Kylie here, and today we're going to be talking about the brain and like unlocking it, how much is unlocked, left and right brain potentially.
Yeah.
So
Like some of the myths and stuff, like, because I know, I think what got us started on it is that you were talking about like people using like 10% of their brain, and like what is it like if you use like the full 100% of your brain or whatever. And I was like, that put me through a spot because I remember hearing that was a myth, but I've never really like seen like how it came about or whatever.
yeah.
So yeah, what did you see? What is the thing that
Well, no, it's just someone was I was listening to something, and let me bring it up. It was like the more I know, the less I know, which is like crazy to think about because it's very like it's a very simple statement, but if you really think about it, it's like, oh wow, that's like actually so true.
I was gonna say, I know there's something that you said that I was like, I want to talk about.
Yeah, you were saying
that 100%. Like, it's so interesting, the concept of like, aside from like the 10% of your brain thing, the more you know, the less you know is so. I talk about that all the time. Where it's like the more intelligent or like the more I like figure out about things, the more I realize like how small I am.
Right.
Whereas like if you think about somebody who's like in their own world, right? They're like, all that matters is like this. Their world, everything feels so big to them because their world is literally just so small.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know, for example, like, what's something that is like if you deep dive into like any topic, I think the thing that you were telling me about was like that if you deep dive into any topic, you just start to realize like how endless.
Oh yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like if you kind of look at everything as like a learning opportunity and understand that like there's so much to learn and that you are never done learning, you've never mastered anything.
Like ever. Yeah.
Ever. You can get really good at stuff, but you never like actually mastered anything. That makes you so much smarter just knowing that. And because, like, for example, like, I don't assume I know everything, ever. So anytime, like, something comes up and I don't know what it means or I, like, have a question about it or something, I'm like, I'll look it up. And then I just know more, which in turn, like, I know less.
Yeah.
Because I just, like, it's not like you know less. It's more of, like, it's not like the more you know, the less you know. It's more of, like, the more you know, the realize how little you know.
Yes.
Like, you don't, you know, whereas, like, you see these people who, like, live such, like, you know, not to call anyone out, but a lot of times, like, like, religion, like, people, their world is literally this book.
It's,
Right? So anything outside of it, they're not even entertaining. So they're not learning.
That's true.
So it's, like, they think they know it all, right? Like, so I have this book with me, I know it all, like, you're not opening yourself to, like, learning anything new about anything else. Like, and I do the same. You could say that, like, the opposite way, but I'm not, like, opposed to, like, learning anything about religion.
Right.
I've studied, like, not, like, extensively, but, like, looked up things and, like, learned about multiple different religions. Yeah. And I think that has made me more intelligent. And
you're
more,
just
like,
being more knowledgeable.
Yeah, exactly. Than just trying to be fixated on one and, like, figure it all out. So I think that that's very interesting. And the aspect of, like, if you are somebody who feels like you actually know it all, like, you're just kind of, like, telling me that you don't know shit. Because I'm sorry, you just don't end. You don't stop learning. If you're, oh, I already know how to whatever. I already know how to whatever. Like, even if you do, there's nothing that I experience, like, relearning something won't teach you. So it's, like, such a small-minded way to think. And it's, like, I feel like people act that way so that they feel smarter.
Right.
Because, like, when you, again, it's not, like, the more you know, the less you know, but more of just, like, the more you know, the more you realize how little you actually know.
That's what we were talking about with Zodiac stuff.
Oh,
because it was, like, whoa. Like, so when you first get into Zodiacs, you literally only know your sign, right? You're like, oh, my God, I know my sign. And at that time, you probably thought, like, oh, I know my sign. Like, not a lot of people do. Not a lot of people do. And then once you realize, like, oh, other people's signs, you're like, oh, but I know nothing about their signs. Let me learn. Oh, now I know pretty much, like, at least a sentence on the gist of 12 different zodiacs. And then and then you think you know so much, and then you're like, no, but there's more. Now people are talking about your big three, and you're like, what's that? I gotta figure that out. Now I gotta figure out my birth time.
Yeah.
And then you realize, like, oh, there's one for every planet. And then you realize, oh, each planet controls a different, like, one's communication and one is, like, emotions. And then it's, like, all this stuff. And you're like, whoa. I actually feel like I know a lot, but not that much.
Yeah, I feel like weird to know and understand that, like, I don't know, there's just so much that you don't know puts you in such a good position. Yeah. You essentially create yourself and your brain to be a sponge to information when you realize that there's room left in your brain to store more information. Yeah. Like, and you're never going to learn it all. We can't, it's literally. No. I heard. Impossible. I don't know how accurate this is, but I did hear, like, somewhere, like, years ago that, like, for your brain to reach capacity, you would have to, like, this is just an example of it reaching capacity. Obviously, this could be a billion other things that you do. But, like, an example of how long it would take your brain to reach capacity is, like, if you would have to watch TV for, like, 300-something years straight. We only live for, like...
Yeah, like we're 80, just not alive on average. Enough.
So I just think that's so crazy to think about, like... And that's straight. That's, like, without sleeping. So, like, our brain can store so much information. And I think that that's where the myth comes from, that we only use 10%, because it's not just, like, memory, but just, like, we don't fully, like, I feel like it is abundantly clear to, like, many people that we just don't, like, a lot of times use our full potential. But we use 100% of our brains every day. Like, well, yeah. I mean, I think, like, not every day. And some people don't. Some people don't.
You'd have to be, like, exercising it in different ways. Like, because if you're just going to work and coming home and then watching TV going to bed, like,
honestly, it's a huge thing. I was, like, telling my mom, because my mom was, like, her memory is, like, kind of bad. It's not, like, awful. It's not, like, by any means, like you wouldn't notice or whatever. But, like, I just notice with little things. She'll be like, I can't remember this and I can't remember that. I'll be like, Mom, you need to start doing, like, memory exercises. And she'll be like, she was like, oh, like, what? Like, she didn't know, like, and I was like, you just have to, like, start exercising your brain. Like, learning new things is such an important part of, like, preventing dementia or Alzheimer's or anything. But also just, like, a good part of, like, staying, like, enriched in your life, you know? If you're doing the same thing every day, you're not learning anything new, it's, like...
Or what's, the stuff, there's, like, a certain, like, mushroom extract that you can take, like, a vitamin, and it, like, helps with memory and stuff. Or, like, ashwagandha or whatever. I can't remember how to say that.
There's, like, a couple different ones. I know that, like, they found that in lion's mane mushrooms, it has, like, a lot of the same material as our brain or something like that.
That's cool.
Which is, like, crazy. That was in that documentary, Fantastic Fungi, that I told you, like, changed my fucking life.
I have to watch that. Yeah,
we have to watch that together. Like,
but so that's, like, what was I gonna say? Oh, or also what's crazy about your brain is, like, it stores so much, but, like, you ever, like, something will trigger something and then you'll remember a memory from, like, X amount of years ago and you're like, whoa.
You're like, where did that
come from? Forgot that was even in my brain. And it's weird because your brain has it stored somewhere. But you're not thinking about that until maybe 10 years later when something else reminds you of it.
It's so fucking interesting that happens. I don't know, like, the shit that I get, like, that example, like, I remember I was on TikTok and I saw some video game that I had when I was literally, like, 8. And somebody was like, oh, like, who played this when they were a kid? And I was like, and I completely had forgotten about it. Like, it was out my fucking brain.
You're like, what? And then it blows your mind.
And I was just like, oh my God. And it took me back to, like, when I used to play it all the time. And I was like, oh my God. Or even, like, if you have a memory that you feel like you just can't, like, pinpoint, like, nobody else remembers it. And then you finally, like, find somebody else who, like, remembers what you're talking about. And it's like, oh shit. Yeah. Like, you know, I don't know. It's just so interesting. But yeah, I feel like that's where that myth comes from. It's just... I feel like the more I know, the more I realize, like, I feel like approaching life with, like, the mindset of, like, I know nothing and I'm open to everything has made me so knowledgeable and, like, able to, like, talk about almost anything because I don't claim to be an expert at anything. Like, ever. Like, even if I know a lot about it, like, I'm just kind of like, there's more I could learn.
Right.
And it opens me up and allows my mind to be like, okay, well, yeah, we could learn more about that. Instead of, like, closing you, why would you want to be done learning something anyway? One, it's impossible. Two, like, why would you want to be done?
I know.
Like, you know? Like, there's so much more you can learn. So, I don't know. I feel like it's so interesting.
It sometimes also, like, blows my mind how like, how little people know about things. Like, I don't know. Like, just sometimes someone at work will say something and I'll be like, you didn't know that? Like, not to be rude, but, like, that's, like, something that's, I don't
common
know.
sense,
Yeah, like, kind of.
You start to realize not everybody
like,
uses their brain. Like, you know what I mean?
Like,
Like, I crave mental stimulation.
Yeah,
like, we were just talking about this. And I'm the type of person where it's like, if I'm not learning something new, and I think I've almost created myself to be that way, and also my mom probably did when I was younger, not on purpose, but just like, it just kind of happened. Because one, I'm an only child. Yeah. So it's like, I had to find my own fun.
Yeah.
Like, all the time. And I'm not saying it like it was hard. Like, it was easy. I was a kid. I found my own fun. But like, because I had to find my own fun, that was like a brain exercise in and of itself.
Right.
I told you about how I fucking, had all my different toys, and they all played the same. They all played the same character all the time, which is so funny because like people play toys all different. There's no wrong or right way, but I had friends that would like change it every time, which is also fun. Like that's super fun because then there's endless possibilities with each one. But they all had like one name and like they played the same character every single time. But I put them in different scenarios, and that was the part that was different. And then every summer,
you multiverse then.
No, literally, and then every summer. I did like summer camp, but it would literally be a huge crossover episode with all my toys. Because like I would play with my Barbies would play with my Barbies. I would play with some of the little crazy toys. I would play those with each other. My stuffed animals, those would be playing with each other. Yeah. But when summer came, it was camp, and everybody was mixed. Okay, there was Barbies in cheerleading camp. There was stuffed animals in cheerleading camp, and they all like would mix up, and it was so fun because I got to put like all their different personalities in one situation together, and it was just so fucking funny.
That's fun.
Yeah, so that was fun, and like even now, like I'm like I just within the last year was like, oh, I need to start picking up Spanish again, and I started doing Spanish stuff, Spanish exercises, and like talking to my friends in Spanish and translating things when I can, and it's like I'm not making a lot of progress because it's like a lot hard. Not only is it hard, but it's like a lot of time. Yeah. The best way to learn a language is full on immersion, and I'm not in Spain. So I can't do that. I was gonna say, eventually I want to go, and that'll be fun, but I'm not in Spain, so it's really hard to learn, but I am like, it's something for me to do. Yeah. And I don't put pressure on it. Like, I'm not like, I have to, whatever. It's just very much like, you know, if you are finding yourself bored, like, why don't you work on Spanish? Oh, if you're finding yourself bored, why don't you read this book? If you're finding yourself bored, like, I swear, The Power of Now has, like, changed my life. Mm-hmm. And I haven't finished that book. I'm not even halfway through that book. Yeah. So it's, like, just finding stimulation, like, different little things and finding interest. Because I also know a lot of people, freaks me the fuck out, just don't have interest. Right. They just don't like anything or do anything.
It's so weird. It's really weird.
I don't get it. I'm the type of bitch where it's like, I'm down for whatever.
I need to be doing something all the time. We can learn something new.
Like, I consider myself like very much like light to semi-athletic. I grew up doing sports. Like, I'm comfortable working out. Like, I know how the body works, whatever. But I also don't, like, I'm not like crazy ripped or whatever. Fanatic, so it was funny because one time I was meeting up with these guys like at the end of my semester, and we were supposed to hang out, and they were already playing basketball, and so they were like, oh, meet us on the court and then we'll leave and we'll all do whatever. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, cool. So I meet them. I was in my tennis skirt and like a strapless fucking shirt. Like I was in a strapless bra and like a tube top, right? Like looking just real cute, whatever. And then I get there, the one guy's still playing, the other guy was, like, taking a break, and his mom was there because they had just graduated, so it was me, my friend, and his mom. And then there just came a point where, like, he looks at me and he's like, you want to play? And I was like, hey, I don't even know the rules to basketball, but sure. I was like, why not? Like,
my tube top and everything.
I swear to God, dude, my boobs are going everywhere. I had to like wrangle them in. But when I tell you it was the most fun I've had in so long, because and it took me back to being a kid, because we played basketball.
Oh yeah, all
in
the
gym.
time.
And I used to hate it because I was just like, I don't get it and I don't even like it.
Yeah.
But it took me back because they explained it to me as I was going. They were like, okay, so basically you're gonna do this and you're gonna do this, and I was like, not really making baskets, but I was making passes really well, and like I started to get like. And when I tell you I was out of breath, sweating, I was like, this is a good fucking workout, and it's fun. So I was like, I totally get how guys come out and play this all fucking day.
Yeah.
You just burn a fuck ton of calories, like, just having fun with your friends. Because you could talk, and then in between games, like, you're hanging out. And then other people came on the court, and we were like, should we ask them if they want to do, like, 4v4? And then we did, and it was just so fun. Yeah. And I just was like, wow, like, I like basketball. Who would have fucking known?
Yeah, right.
And, like, I played in a fucking tube top and tennis skirt. Like, and it was just so fun. And now I'm, like, I just told you, I was, like, I want to get into, like, tennis. And not, like, in a serious way, but just in, like, a... Because, it's fun. And
where it's like not so much pressure. Because that was, like, super serious.
When I went, it was, like, sundown. Mm-hmm. And, it was also spring, so it wasn't that hot. But I went, it was sundown, and we literally played till it was dark out. And they had already been out all day. And I was just like, I don't know how people play all day. Yeah. Now I get it. Yeah. Because I'm like, you take breaks in between. You pack a couple snacks, a water bottle. You're just, like, hanging out with your friends. But also getting a good fucking workout in. Yeah. I was like, oh, I get it now. Yeah. Also, like, he's, like, semi-ripped. So I was like, how does he even do that? Like, where do you find the time? But, like, if you spend, like, a Sunday where you have time, like, half the day just doing that fucking cardio and, like, jumping and running, like... I'm like, this is it. Like, this is where I need to start instead of just, like, spending time. Like, there's nothing wrong watching shows or anything. I love watching shows, but it's just, like, even that I get sick of and just bored. And I'm just, like, I like to run and watch a show at the end of my day or whatever and not have it be my whole day.
It's just, in moderation.
Yeah, very much moderation. So I'm, like, I just want to start, like, doing something activity-wise, other than just walking, because I love walking and I'll walk all around.
I love walking too.
Sometimes it does when I do the same fucking loop twice in a week. I'm like, I need to do something else. I'm like, I want to go out on the fucking court, get sweaty, play tennis, look cute in my little skirt, and like call it a day. Like that sounds fun, and start even playing basketball with like people in the gym, like. Because now I like it. I'm like not great at it, but I like it, and I'm still getting a workout and having fun. Like. So good. So
that's why I wish, like, work sucks. Because, like, it takes up most of your time. And then, like, you're kind of drained or burnt out. And
you're
it's
already
like,
tired. It pisses me off. Yeah. Because I'll come back from work exhausted. Thinking, like, I will still make time
mentally
for myself.
Drained, physically
drained.
And
I literally cannot even find it in me some days. Some other days it's fine. But some days it's like, I'll literally lay in my bed, like, I want to do yoga so bad, but I don't even have it in me to do, like, the chill yoga.
And then you're just irritated, because you're like,
because I'm like, there's no time for me. Yeah. Like, it's just fucking fucked up.
Because work is not for you. No. Work is for everyone else. Yeah. Like, I'm
making money, but I'm not making enough. Yeah, so, like, it's really not for me.
You're dealing with a lot of crap and pleasing other people, and it's like, oh my God, no. And
we need mental stimulation. Yeah. Like, talking to people, too, like... I don't know. Like,
but if you could just have all day, every day to choose what you want to do, you'd learn so much. You'd do so many activities. You'd visit so many places. Like the whole like 2 weeks a year of vacation for people with their 9-to-5 jobs. Like, I'm sorry, 2 weeks out of an entire year.
Suck it.
Like, that's 14 out of 365 days. Well, weekends off. But still, it's not.
Absolutely not.
It's ridiculous.
It's awful.
And it's just like, and then I always think of the thing like, I love to travel and I can't wait to do that. But it's so crazy that even if you didn't have a job, you would not be able to go to every single place in this world. Or like, step in every single place. Like, it's just crazy. Or do every single activity.
Travel is so expensive, too. I don't get it.
Like, it is, and it's irritating.
For example, like, there's this guy I follow, and he basically kind of, like, got famous for, like, making noodles, because he makes them in this specific way. And, like, noodles? Them, and it's just so fun to watch. But he makes, like, Korean noodles and stuff like that, and he went to Korea, and then he, like, right after he went to Korea, he went to, like, Japan, and then right after Japan, he went to, like, Vietnam, and he was like, thank you guys so much, because if it wasn't for you guys, and when I tell you, he is not like famous. Like he is verified on TikTok, because that's where he kind of like went off.
For noodles.
But he is not like famous. So I'm like, I don't know, obviously, because I'm not an influencer, but I'm just like, how are you getting, because I know a flight is like 2,000.
Yeah,
like,
literally.
Something like that. So I'm like, and not only that, he's not staying with any, like, he's getting Airbnbs, which are, like, I'm sorry, Airbnbs, like, still expensive as fuck. Like,
staying anywhere is just
and
expensive.
so I'm like, how are you? And then the whole time he's there, I mean, it is cheaper in other countries, so, like, you do kind of,
the
like,
currency
whatever.
and stuff.
Yeah, so I was gonna say, how is he, like, eating out all the time? But that part's not really, it's just more of, like, how are you paying, like, $2,000 for a flight?
Wait, and the currency for a flight doesn't switch unless
on
you
the way
book
back.
a one-way. Yeah, but if you book a round trip here, it's
right.
just set. But if you book probably a one-way there and then a one-way back, maybe it...
I wonder, I never thought about that.
I didn't either until just right now.
We have to look into
new thing
that.
unlocked.
We have to look into that. But
New brain
still, like,
stimulation.
how is, like, you're telling me on the way, like, just to a place is $2,000?
No, yeah. And then...
Like, that is just, I can't do that.
And then staying, and then eating, and then excursions.
And the entire time you're there
activities.
not making money.
Like, no, I know, right?
Even if
like,
you're making videos, it's like, I know AdSense isn't paying people a lot because people talk about that. But I'm like, so I know, like, sponsorships pay a lot more.
Yeah.
But usually they pay a fuck ton when you are, like, fully fucking famous.
Yeah.
Even if you're not, like, you're usually getting paid, the same... or a little bit more than somebody would be paying at, like, a minimum wage job.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, I don't get how you're affording, like, a $2,000 trip to whatever, but...
It's not fair.
It's not. I want to go and eat noodles in fucking Vietnam.
Right.
Like, that's what I want to do.
Like, some of the weirdest stuff that people just, like, blew up on. Like, eating noodles, like...
Yeah. I don't get it. I don't get it. Being an influencer is so weird.
It is weird, because it's like, it seems like a loophole.
It's not, though. Because then now you're working every day.
Yeah.
Right? And you're like, okay, well, it's not that bad, but it is. It is.
But...
Because you're thinking about, like... And, I mean, it's not, like, awful. I'm not saying it's as bad as,
it can't be anywhere than 9 to 5.
No, it's not. But, like, I mean, in some ways, like... I've even heard other people talk about it who have, like... And they're like, I'm so grateful for this, and obviously I'm happy I don't have to, like, work a job I hate. But there is something that's so gratifying about being able to punch out and be like, I'm done, and I'm doing whatever I want to do. Whereas, like, if you were an influencer, it's like... And it depends. Like, there's, like, different types. Like, this guy obviously is making a good amount of money. And I'm saying it's because of this, like, his influence, because he has thanked people and being like, I wouldn't be able to do this without you guys. So I'm like, okay, this definitely has to be part of that. But I'm like, there's no way he's making, like, that much money. But I guess so. Like, I mean, also it's, like, you know, relative. Like, maybe he is only making, like, $4,000 every 6 months or something.
You could Google his net worth.
But, like, even if he was, like, he's fine spending all of that on travel. Yeah. Because he comes home and he just, like, lives with his parents. So it's not like he has, like, you know what I mean? So I'm like, that is... Because if that was me, I would too. Like, I would just be like, I'm going. And it's solo trips, like, whatever. But, yeah, I don't know. It's weird because some of them, like, talk about, like, you can't really fully control how big you get, right?
Right.
I always said that about being an actress, too. I was like, oh, I want to be an actress. But then I was like, I don't want to be famous, like, to the point where tabloids are, like, following me.
Right.
I want to be famous to where people can recognize my face.
Right.
But I'm not, like, being
not to the point where you're hiding to even go to the grocery store, like, in sunglasses and a hat.
If you think of, like, a B or C list celebrity, like, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
Where I'm making money and I'm profiting off of being an actress, like, in a good amount, but people don't really know me like that.
Yeah, there's definitely...
Like, I love that.
Because there's definitely actresses or even musicians that if they walked right by me, I would not even know them. Yeah. Like, there's definitely a handful of those.
And I love that. And, like, that's the same with, like, influencing is harder to control than acting, though, because I feel like you can kind of decide, like, I don't know, even then, like, when did Jenna Ortega pop off? You know what I mean? Like, everybody talks about Jenna Ortega.
She was
what
in
did she do?
Disney Channel. She was in Stuck in the Middle when she was, like, a kid. Yeah, she was... one of the
but
siblings,
how did she pop off?
Well, I don't know how it went from that to that.
Like, I feel like there's some instances where they can control it, but
so she was in that, and then I think she was in You. You know the series You. She was like the sister in there. She was like the sister in like
in
the
that show
third or something, second or third season. She was one of the sisters. Yeah, that. And then she popped off again when she was like 18. That movie X, I don't know if
she was in it, yeah.
It was like kind of like a inappropriate movie, and she was in that, and I think everyone was like, whoa.
She wasn't that good in that.
I don't remember.
Okay, not
that she's gonna listen to this.
But I don't want people to think I'm hating on her just because she's famous, because I love Jenna Ortega. Like, she is a good actress.
But then she killed it in Wednesday.
She was great in Wednesday, and she was great in that other movie, The Fallout, about the school shooting. She was great in that. She was like the main character in that.
I don't think I saw that. No,
but it was good. She was good in that too.
Yeah,
in X, like, she wasn't bad in X, but her character, it weirdly didn't feel believable. It just felt like I was watching Jenna Ortega with a fake accent.
Do you think she was just like maybe uncomfortable? Like maybe it just wasn't her like
she signed on to do that.
No, I know, but so then you can still be uncomfortable while doing it, and it might not be your best work.
I don't know. Maybe it just wasn't for her. Because there's some things that you can be excited about and want to do that it might not be for you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Regardless, it was a huge part of her career. So it was something else that, like, the movie popped off. So it was something else that was good for her. But I just, like, her acting was, like, kind of...
Then Wednesday, she was so good in that.
That was so
really
good. I liked that show way more than I thought I was going to like that
show.
But, yeah, I don't know. There's levels to, like, being famous, and it's just, like, I don't fully understand it. But if I could, I would, like, be, like, the small amount of famous, because I like my privacy.
If you can control that,
I like my privacy.
I do, too.
But I also like the idea of being able to reach, like, an audience and not necessarily influence them, but, like, talk to them.
Yeah.
Like, I love, like, there's a lot of the influencers that I follow, like him, for example, will literally just kind of, like, talk in the comments with people and be like, oh, yeah, I love this, too, or, like, people get famous off of, like, making food on TikTok. Like, I love that because I love making food, or, like, just having, like, their opinions. You know, I don't want to get into, like, some crazy shit. I just want to, like, kind of have fun and, like, meet more people. You know what I mean? So that's fun. Or even the idea of, like, again, having a podcast. And we talked about this multiple times, where it's like, if you're listening to this, thank you so much.
Yeah, we have never said thank you.
Yeah, thank you
for the people
Thank
listening.
you for listening to this if you are, but it is one of those things where it's like, to have a podcast that people care about, you have to already have been doing something else.
Right.
That people care about. Obviously, people are listening to this. So thank you again. But there is a lot of, like, the whole thing as, like, oh, I listen to this person's podcast because I love their YouTube channel. I listen to this person's podcast because I love their TikTok. I listen to this person's podcast because I listen to the music that they make or whatever, and I like them as a person. So it's so weird to just start a podcast and not have, like, the fan base already. Obviously it's not weird to do that, but it's more of just, like, it's weird in a sense of, like, people don't really know why they want to listen to you yet. Yeah. Because, like, even if they like the topic, it's like, oh, I want to listen to somebody I know talk about the topic. Right. You know what I mean? Right. Where it's like, so that's where I was like, I feel like podcasting is, like, my favorite thing ever. Yeah. And I remember for the longest time I was like, I just want a podcast. I want to do it all the time. But I was like, nobody's going to give a fuck when I'm just like, hey, this is my opinion on this. They're like, who are you?
And then when you realize people do, you're like, oh, that's cool. Like,
it is so cool. It is so cool.
Like when people leave like rates and reviews.
Yeah,
like,
that's so awesome. But it would be awesome if we could get, like, sponsored.
No,
like,
I know.
You know what I mean? Not that, like, I wouldn't do this anyway, because again, we're not making money on this, but we're fucking doing it.
But, like,
it's fun.
if we got to a point where we could,
but there's people who literally have YouTube channels where they post, like, once a month, not even, but they have a big name and a lot of people follow them, and then they start a podcast. And they post on the podcast weekly, and now they're getting, like, 3 sponsors on each podcast because they get views on each podcast. And they literally are doing the same thing we're doing, which is just, like, talking about life. Yeah. And I'm just literally. I'm not, like, saying that's bad that they're doing that. Like, that's totally fine. But it's, like, I would love to do that as a job. Right. But you have to have already had, like, a background. Because for enough people to care. Right. For you to be able to get paid for it, is what I'm saying.
We could be doing it better, and we could, like, but no one knows unless
they're like,
you know what I mean, like, our conversations.
Not that people wouldn't, because people will. Yeah, inevitably people will.
Yeah,
like,
but I think our conversations are so intriguing and, like, really truly, if, like, it blew up, I feel like a lot of people would really enjoy our content. Oh yeah. So, like, it's just a matter of getting to that point. So, guys, if you are listening, it would be really nice if you could rate and review it, because I know that people have in the past, but that's what helps, like, push our podcast to, like, the top of the Explore page on, like, Spotify or Apple Podcasts or whatever, is when you give it like a 5-star rating and you write a quick review, it really helps like boost us to the top of the category.
Or just like talk about it to people. I love word of mouth for podcasts. Like that's usually how I find podcasts. Yeah. Because like most of the podcasts I listen to are people I do already know from like their YouTube channel or whatever. Yeah. And I'll listen to other ones, but it's usually word of mouth. You've told me about certain podcasts. Yeah. I've had a friend that told me about, like, oh, you would love this podcast. Yeah. And then I listen and I'm like, oh my God, I do love this. And it's a word of mouth thing. But even then I do notice too, it's kind of like you do have to, like, fuck with the people, right? It's not even if you don't, like, not fuck with them, it's like, you know, the first time listening to something, it's, I don't know how to explain it. You know what I mean?
It also is like, if you go to search up podcasts, right? The first one that pops up, and if it has 4.2K reviews, stars, you're going to click on that one maybe first and start listening because you're like, wow, this is very popular. Yeah, you're not.
Like, who is no one listening to? Let me go listen to them.
If ours is all the way at the bottom, it's going to be a little bit harder for random people. But as ours gets closer to the top, like, that's going to be more in people's searches because we're going to have more rates and reviews and people are going to be like, wow, I trust this more. You know, it has at least 1,000 rates and reviews and like, I trust it more, you know?
Sorry. But I don't know. It's so interesting. The idea of like fame and like.
And how it can just happen randomly too. Like,
because there's so many people that are doing with their fame exactly what I want to be doing. And not even fame, just like influence. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, they're not like famous. Like, if I say the name like Luna Montana, you probably don't know who that is.
No.
Exactly. But she actually does have like a lot of followers. I know, Hannah Montana. Like, she has enough. Like,
wait, but is that the one you were talking about? You were talking about someone, I think, that sounded like it had that name, and I don't remember what you were talking about, but I think you brought it up in one of our podcasts, and I cannot remember.
That probably was.
It was is she witchy?
No. Actually,
no. Then I don't even know who you brought up, but it's still like so exciting, like, because when I go on our podcast app and I'm like, I see like over X amount of people have viewed it, I'm like, that's just nice. Yes. Like, you've actually pressed play, and you've started listening.
Yeah, like
even if it's not that many, it's crazy to be like a lot, like X amount of people took this amount of time and like sat down, whether you even finished it or not, you started it, and like. I just can imagine, like, just people, like, sitting in their car or their room and just listening to us and enjoying it.
Yeah, like, that's how I feel. Like, I love, like, listening and, like, just listening to people, like, just talk about shit and go on rants. And I love, like, I just love it. It's just so good. And I feel like podcasting is, like, my favorite form of, like, media. Yeah. And, like, if I were to do anything, it would be, like, be a podcaster. Yeah. Because I feel like it's just like low key. But in a good way.
You can like, still go outside and no one's gonna be like, oh my God, I know you.
That podcaster, like, you know what I mean? But it's like you also get to like work things out in your brain and like talk it through and like, I don't know, like hear other people's opinions about shit is so like let's fucking talk about it. Like like right after this we're gonna do the cryptozoology podcast and it's like that's something I'm obsessed with and haven't gotten to talk about in a really long time, so it's like where else would I bring it up, you know?
Like, podcasting is so fun for us because we like talking in general. Yeah. And we like bouncing ideas off of each other, and this is exercising our brain and unlocking certain parts. Like, you know, when we talk about stuff, like, it makes me think of stuff that I haven't thought about in a really long time or like just new stuff, and it's just so interesting.
It's really dope, and I don't know, I love it. But that, I mean, circle back, that's all of, like, that is, podcasting is a huge part of, like, stimulating your brain. Yeah. And listening to podcasts, too.
I love listening to podcasts. I feel like
listening to podcasts and doing a podcast are almost the same thing. Yeah. Because it is a conversation that you're either, like, you're taking part in, whether you're, like, not actually, like, there or not, like, you're hearing it and you're starting to think about the things that they're talking about. It is, like, almost the same thing, and it's so, like, mind-stimulating, no matter what people are talking about. Like, no matter what. I've listened to podcasts about the most, like, do you know the singer Rosalia?
No.
She's pretty famous, but, like, she sings in Spanish. Oh, she's from Spain. And I knew her name for the longest time, but I never listened to her music or whatever. I listened to a podcast Brittany Broski does by herself now, called like the Broski Report, and she is obsessed with her. So she was like, you know what? This is my show. I'm doing an entire podcast on like her work and like why she's amazing. And I listened to it, and I was just like, wow. Yeah. And I started learning about like, because she got all this influence from like flamenco, and like I started learning about a little bit of the history of flamenco, and like
I don't even know what that is.
It's like it's like a Spanish, like it's a dance where like they clap. Oh, yeah, you probably know what it is. Yeah. But I was like, oh my god, it's so fucking cool, and she uses that in like her music, and like her thesis she went to school for music, and her thesis was like one of the albums that like got her famous. Like she just like put it out after or whatever. And I was like, that's just so fucking cool. And I like started listening to a little bit of her music. It's in Spanish again, but like it's still really good. Yeah. And I am not like, again, like I'm not like listening to it all the time, but it was just like, now I know a bunch about Rosalia. Like again, like really like quote unquote useless knowledge, but it's just like, now it's like a conversation starter that I can bring up or whatever. And it's just like something in the night I was like watching that. It was like right before I went to bed, and I was just like, wow, Rosalia, like she's really out here doing it. And I like still like had no idea. Like I just knew her name before that. And I really didn't know like who she was or like. And I was just like, oh, that's so cool. And it was such from a specific perspective of somebody who really loves, who one, speaks Spanish. She wasn't like a Spanish. She's Brittany Broski. Do you know who Brittany Broski is? No. She's white. Like, but she took Spanish for so long. She's like, she's not like fluent, but like she can go somewhere and be comfortable. Like she's pretty much bilingual. And so she like loves her music and like loves Latin influenced music because like she understands it and stuff like that. So it was a unique perspective of somebody like, their actual just opinion. That's why I'm like, you could listen to the same topic and 10 different people talk about it, and it's different every fucking time. And that's what I love about like podcasting. I just love it.
No, sometimes I randomly listen to classical music, and it's like, I don't know, it's just stimulating in like a different weird way.
Classical music itches my brain in a way that I can't even explain. The day I took my final for organic chemistry, I was so ready. I did it and I was done. And I came back and it was like I think it was like pretty much my last, like, it was my last big final. Everything else was pretty chill. And so I was like, okay. And I came back and I literally was like, I never have to take organic chemistry again. And so I started ripping out all my notes from my notebook. And I just wanted something calm to listen to. Calm. I put on villainous classical music. So it was
Why is that like a movie of me picturing you?
I was ripping out as like, and it's not like the relaxing classical. It's like literally. That's why I was like, calm. Really it's literally like, but it's like villainous too. So it has this like spooky, like I don't know, like evil kind of touch to it. So I was just listening to it, like ripping out all these pages, papers flying everywhere. I was home alone, and I'm playing it like out loud. All of a sudden, my roommate like comes up the stairs. She's like, "You good?" I'm like, yeah, I'm just done with organic chemistry now. Like, it was just
I'll be done in a minute.
It was like the perfect thing, like to just like ease my mind, just like have like stimulation, but with no words.
It's so
as
funny.
I like rip out all my notes, like
literally like a movie.
It was just so good. Like, it was just so good. So, yeah, classical music is.
Well, I also like remember when you learned classical music. Like, if you play it for a baby, like it makes them smarter.
I don't get how that works, but
I mean, I think it just means I know that's true. I think it just means that it stimulates their brain, possibly. Like, as a kid, like, I don't think it came out when I was a kid, but my younger siblings, it was called like Baby Mozart or Baby Einstein or something.
Oh yeah, I know.
Do you remember that?
Yes,
bro. It was the weirdest shit. But I sat there and watched it with my siblings. Like,
oh my god, I remember like the.
I just unlocked something in your brain. Like,
I remember. Yes, you did. I remember the commercials.
Like, so it was like, okay, but not little Einsteins. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I know.
Okay, so Baby Einstein. If you like look it up, so it would play like, it would have like a black screen. And then it would have some toy, like, moving with, like, classical music. And then it would switch scenes. And then, like, someone would maybe be, like, building something. But you would only see, like, their hands. And they'd be, like, building. And all this classical music would be in the background. Like, Beethoven and Mozart and all that stuff. And it was, like...
I totally forgot about it. I remember the commercials for these.
Yeah, but
Baby
like
Mozart, Baby Einstein.
But like if you look up like me and my sisters literally like maybe like a year ago or so like re-looked it up on YouTube and we were like, oh my god, because there was like a couple of them, but it wasn't like cartoon, the one we were watching.
Yeah,
like it was like real toys. You would never see a person.
I saw,
you know what
like,
I'm talking
I saw
about?
one of these like what was it?
You would never see a person. Yes, yeah. Bro, so weird. They'd have the puppet, and then the cow would go over and dip. The puppet would dip it. The puppet cow would dip its face in milk, like real milk, and then come back up, and milk would be like dripping, and it would be like
that's a little weird.
It was so weird, but it like somehow was supposed to be like helped kids get smarter and stimulated their brain, and there'd be like classical music in the background.
Because why does that feel like?
I don't know, but
that feels like such a good idea to get rich fast.
Right.
We're gonna put classical music on. We're gonna do some finger puppets, and we're gonna tell all of America that
if you think about it, all the people that were doing classical music, like Beethoven and stuff, like very smart people.
Oh well, yeah.
Because didn't Beethoven?
No, the people doing it, but it's different to just like watch a cow dip its face in milk as you're a baby. No,
I know that was like the weirdest part
just
about it.
Just because Mozart's on in the background,
but. Wasn't Beethoven? I don't want to say. I was gonna say he was deaf. I was like, I don't want to say this wrong. But I think he was deaf.
Insane,
nuts.
Insane. He's like literally my favorite composer.
I love Beethoven.
That being said, I haven't like gone through all of these different composers.
Oh yeah,
but I love his music. It's a little bit creepy, and that's why I love it so much. Moonlight Sonata, Elise, like oh my god, so good.
That one's my favorite. Oh, it's just playing in my head right now. It's so good. It's crazy because I feel like that talent just isn't a thing anymore. Yeah. Like being deaf and being able to compose that.
I'm looking up right now how classical music makes you smarter because it's gonna fucking make me mad if I don't.
I'm sure it's somewhere.
So the intricate. Well, okay. First of all, I'm just reading whatever the fuck comes up, just so you guys know. So I'm not saying this is fucking true, but. It says the intricate structures and patterns found in classical composition stimulate neural pathways in the brain, leading to improved cognitive function. That makes sense to me. And overall mental agility. So that's kind of weird because you know how when we say like it just itches our brain the right way, like it actually is like itching a part of your brain. Like that's so interesting. Emotional well-being. Classical music has the power to evoke emotion, obviously. Cultural enrichment is a rich, profound art that spans centuries. But it's okay.
Doesn't it like also make you feel calmer too?
Yeah. Genre. Okay, well now they have a typo on their fucking. Okay, so I'm gonna move on to a different one. It says it boosts memory.
It does help you focus.
According to a study. Oh yeah, focus is nice because there's no like words in it, and it's just like boost memory. According to a study, just a study. They did link the whatever, but surprising benefits of listening to classical music. Decreases blood pressure.
Wow.
Boosts memory. Classical music increases your brainwave activity that's linked to memory. Sparks creativity, reduces stress, supercharges brain power. Students who listen to a lecture in which classical music was played through the background scored better on tests. You know what I think?
I
think that's manifestation though.
It could be.
Because I'm not even lying to you. Like, I have a Dark Academia playlist. I didn't make it, but, like, I followed one on Spotify. Right. And when I was in philosophy, which is all, like, thinking and, like, talking about, like, ethics. Like, I was an intro to ethics. So it was specifically philosophy on ethics. And, like, thinking about what things really mean and whatever. Real deep shit. Philosophy is hard as a bitch to read. Yeah. It is so fun to, like, talk about, but it is hard as a bitch to read. Because they talk in circles.
Although,
they'll be like... and it's over, like, the smallest thing, right? Like, a fucking philosopher will be like, if one is mean when one is feeling meanness, how is meanness then connected to one's feeling of being mean? And it's like, and you have to read it like 10 times because you're like, what the fuck are you saying?
Like, just simplify it. You can make it.
They really can.
You can make it sound smart while still simplifying it.
You have to read it like 6 different times. And I remember I would read it and I just like want to cry because I'd be like, I want to be done with this. But like I need to like do my response or whatever.
Were they this confused when they were writing it?
Like it sounds like a stoned person wrote it. Like somebody who's just high as fuck is like, what if when you touch things, things are actually touching you? and that you are then touching it because it has started touching you, and that's how touch works. And you're just like, what? Like, so that's literally how it was reading it. But I remember, like, anytime I started to get, like, frustrated with it, I would put on my Dark Academia playlist, pretend, I'd be like, I have blue light glasses.
You should send that to me.
I will.
Because I want to hear that.
I have blue light glasses, specifically for, well, one, just they're cute.
Sometimes I have them
like
too.
To put my hair back.
Because I don't wear glasses.
So. Also one for blue light. I really bought them for blue light, but, like, I use them as an accessory a lot, so sometimes the lenses get all fucked. But I will put them on and then just feel smart. So I'll put them on.
Yeah.
And then I'll put the music on. And I tell myself, yeah. I'm like, oh, well, I'm in a prestigious college.
Start getting your feather pen.
I know.
And your writing notes.
You get the vibe.
Yeah,
like, you're picking up what I'm putting fucking down. Like, I'm fully, like, immersing myself. I'm like, oh, there's this one on YouTube where it's like, it's raining and you're studying in Oxford or something. Ooh. And I'm like, I'm studying philosophy. I'm just an intellectual. Like, it is, there's something about it that just works.
Stripes, sweater, and skirt.
No, literally, I get it done. I get it fucking done. It's like a manifestation thing. So I feel like the smarter thing could also just be a part of manifestation, because I swear I'll sit. And that's what I mean about, like, living life in delusion. Yeah. It's like, if you can't do the homework, pretend like you're somebody who can.
Well, it's fun. And I don't even think we touched on this in the podcast, because I think we were in the car when we were talking about loving being different personalities, like that we can just morph into it. We only talked about that in the car.
We have to do a full podcast on that.
Yeah.
This is also, every time we do a podcast, we find something else to do a podcast about.
Take that branch and we can make that an entire podcast
we totally could. So, yeah. But yeah, no, brain function is just so...
and just put yourself fully in that vibe. Like, you just were like the glasses, the playlist,
plus now
what I'm doing.
Like, telling myself, all of those things are telling me, my brain, instead of, like, this is something I don't want to do and I'd rather be, like, doing yoga or, like, watching something or hanging out with my friends. Now it's telling me, oh, well, now you're the type of bitch that does want to do this.
Yeah.
Oh, I read philosophy in my spare time. I read philosophy. I'm an intellectual. I go to Oxford. In the one where it's, like, raining and there's rain out, and I'm like, if it actually is, like, kind of dark out, and I'm just, like, at my desk and I'm, like, taking notes, and I'm like, my glasses are on, and I'm just like, but what does it really mean to touch something? And I'm, like, into it. And it's, like, an actual subject that I love and I am into, but it is, like I said, hard as a bitch to actually sit down and read, and you just will get so fucking frustrated reading it. But then once you get it, it's so fun to, like, talk about it.
And then you sit there, like, and you're like, what if I try reading out loud? And then you do your little accent and you start reading it out loud. Like, you could also,
I've done things in an accent so many times. I am somebody who loves to do accents. I grew up just, like, doing accents for no fucking reason. And one of the best, like, study methods that, like, I always hear is, like, well, we'll pretend like you're teaching it to somebody else, right? I take it a step further, right? I am the teacher. Right. I already know it all. Right. So I'm going to teach it to you. Right. And I'm going to do it in an accent because it's fun. Yeah. That's what I was... then I just, like, now I'm studying in an Australian accent, teaching to a class of people that don't exist because I'm in my dorm room. And I just am pretending like I'm the
teacher and the class.
I'm like, well, no, I can explain to you this concept because I'm the teacher. And I explain back what I literally just read, and now I'm studying. Yeah. But it's fun because I'm playing pretend. Like, that's why I'm like, who said studying is just, like, writing it all down? You know what I mean? Like, I do write it down, but it's like, if you want to study it, like, just, I swear to God, you'll remember it so much better if you just fucking make it so stupid. Yeah. Like, that you're just having fun and, like, whatever. Like, I just love that. I love it. It's so fucking fun.
That's why, like, if you're getting angry about, like, philosophy or whatever, you're like, oh, I can't understand it. Just, like, put yourself in, like, pretend you created that.
Yeah, I'm like, I did this.
Like, I actually found you were the philosopher. And so then try to, like, break it down and read it and understand it as if you created it.
And this is somebody who used to be, like, I was not great at school. Yeah. Like, I was great when I was a kid. I was like, oh, I got this. Yeah. Like, they were like, oh, you're so, like, advanced for your age. And then all of a sudden I get to middle school, and it's not like nothing made sense to me, but it was more just, like, it was a lot, and it was just, like, I don't know how to study. Yeah. I didn't know how to study for shit. When you're in, like, elementary, you don't really have to study. You just kind of learn it and you do it. But then there comes a point where it's like you kind of have to start studying, and I didn't know how to do that. And now I get how to study for myself on top of, like, acting things out and playing pretend. There's just other things that I do now that, like, I find that work for me way better. Right. And a lot of it does result to being delusional. Like,
right.
I'm not going to sit here and tell myself I'm studying because then I'm going to be miserable. I'm going to sit here and tell myself I'm a British person living and doing school in Oxford, and I'm so smart, and I got a full ride scholarship to this college, and I plan on just being a philosopher in this moment, and it just makes it so fucking fun.
Literally.
It's just so great. But yeah, no, the way I feel like we are very much people who are like expansive with our brains.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy to like, you'll meet somebody sometimes and you're just like, oh.
Yeah.
Very one note.
Yes.
This is very one note.
Like you can tell if you can get the vibe of someone if they're going to like dive deep into things or be very surface level, and then like that's how I'll react with you. If you're surface level, I'm just gonna keep it at. Exactly. I'm not really
that's
gonna associate with you.
Like with like, for example, like the just getting into like conspiracies and stuff like that. Like, I'll entertain anything, almost anything. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I'm not going to entertain something theory. I'm just over it. It's stupid. It's not even fun, okay? Like, there's so many other things I would rather entertain.
Why did Abe's boyfriend the other day, because I was like, I don't know. I was just saying that we were podcasting or that we would talk about like crazy conspiracies and just like everything basically. And he was like, "Is she a flat earther?" I was like, "No." I was like, "Absolutely not."
No, I'm so anti-flat. I think it's because the people who believe in flat Earth are so fucking for real about it. They're not even like, "Well, what if?" They're like, "No, it is."
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's not even a theory anymore. Y'all just believe it, and like for no fucking reason.
Oh God.
But I will almost entertain anything because I like the idea of even just like, again with like Bigfoot, for example. It's like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you, like, wholeheartedly, like, Bigfoot is real, and I know it. If you don't believe in Bigfoot, you suck.
Or is not.
But I feel the same way, because I'm just, like, I love the idea of, like, we don't really know.
No, like...
You know, one thing we do know is that the Earth is not flat. And that's why I get mad, because I'm like, y'all are just mad for no reason. But, like, things that we really just don't know. Like, for example, what the fuck is in the bottom of the ocean? There's a point in the ocean where we can't even go down without
that
dying.
Can also go into
what is down there?
Oh my God.
And, like, we just don't know. So I love, like, thinking about things like, is it possible for things to be frozen for years and thaw and come back? I don't know. And I love thinking about that and entertaining those thoughts and, like, not taking anything too seriously, because then you just, like, are spiraling yourself.
Yeah.
But, like, thinking about it and entertaining it, if you're somebody who's just like, well, Bigfoot's not real because that wouldn't make sense. It's like,
just why do you think you're smart? Like, why do you think you know it all?
Yeah,
like,
you just don't know everything. You don't know what the fuck's in the woods.
Yeah, like, did you go through every single wood?
That's what I'm saying.
In the world, and you like, yourself said for sure that's not true.
I don't
know what I mean?
It's crazy to me. It really is. It really fucking is.
It's just like people close the door so quickly on like
stop closing the door. That is the if you are listening to this podcast right now, this is me telling you, stop closing the door on shit. Stop feeling you know everything. If you are the type of person that is like that, stop. Even if you do it for like a certain thing, because there's a lot of people who are like expansive on everything, and then there's a one topic they're like, I just know it all. I know it all. Like, you don't know everything all the way, and that's okay. And it's so fun to not know everything all the way, because then there's so much to learn,
more stuff,
so much to talk about, so many things to relearn. Because I've gotten out of there was a point where I was like 7 or 8. If you brought up, like, Fiji mermaids, I could give you a fucking backstory. Right now, I just can tell you that they're scary looking.
Right.
But, like, that's something I could relearn. And it's like, is it useful information? Is it actual information? I don't fucking know, but it's still something, and it's interesting.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, the fucking Tare guy that we talked about in our other podcast, where he, like, swallowed a toddler, supposedly, maybe.
Yeah.
Like, that is fucking... I brought that up at a party once.
Whether he did or not, it's crazy that it could have happened.
At a party where, like, everybody was, like, at least tipsy, leaning on drunk. Some people were stoned. And I bring it up. I was like, you guys ever heard about that guy that swallowed a kid? And then somebody's like, wait, I did. And then we were like, okay. And then I brought it up, and I hand the phone, because I have a friend that's, like, super into philosophy. Yeah. Like, he will get stoned and just go in on, like, anything. Be like, well, actually, we're talking about the blah, 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 blah. And it's so interesting, because we'll all just get, like, fucked up and, like, philosophize, which is, like, so fun to me. And so, like, I hand him the phone on the thing. Or no, I didn't hand him the phone. He looked it up on his own phone. Mm-hmm. And he's, like, half drunk, like, explaining this and reading down the list. And people are all interested, like, in listening and being like, what? And he's like, bro was so hungry. I was, like, dying. Because I was like, this is so funny that I just, like, said this. And now everybody's, like, listening and, like, being like, what is that? Like, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Instead of being like, that's stupid or like,
Yeah.
whatever. Like, it's just funny to like know shit like that. Like, you can have
Right.
useless information. It'd be just so fun.
Yeah.
Like, stop. Don't close the door on shit.
Yeah.
Keep an open mind.
Like, whether it's real or not, the possibility that it could be or could not be real is just,
the
like,
possibility
crazy.
that we don't know is crazy, because there's a lot of shit we don't know.
Yeah.
Okay? Like, the government gets scared of UFOs. It's happened. Like, where they talk about, like, we don't know what the fuck that was in the sky, y'all.
Yeah, and then we're all like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like,
where they call
military.
Like, I don't know if you know about that LA thing that happened forever ago. Oh, my God. We'll bring that up in the cryptozoology podcast because there was a whole thing that happened in LA where they had to get military personnel and they didn't know what was going on. It was like an alien. It was fucking, I forget. Oh my God.
Crazy.
Yeah, but keep an open mind, y'all.
Yeah, that's the moral of 100%. This podcast.
Yeah.
I think, I think that's about it. Yeah. We kind of went from... I mean, it
all kind of connected.
Yeah, I was gonna say it went all over the place, but it's still at the end of the day related and went back to your brain and expanding it. So, yeah, we will catch you guys on the next podcast. Thank you so much.